All right, hello. We are live. We are live to go through this rather fascinating experience I had yesterday. No, not yesterday, earlier in the week, where I did an AMA on Reddit that was all about the experience of being behind the closed doors of a conference, a kind of Davos-like event called Berlin Global Dialogue. And it was, without a doubt, a window into the decisions that are made behind the scenes that affect us all, both in society. I'm always fascinated by that, right? And in technology, because obviously I'm always fascinated by that bit, not least because it is close to my heart running Codesmith and thinking about how people can thrive as engineers, as builders. And so, yeah, it was a really intriguing, intimidating. Like when I asked my question, when I asked my question to the OpenAI executives, I was definitely, I don't know, I did not do my best job ever asking question, because it is damn intimidating. You're surrounded by the decision makers. Macron was there. And look, I'll be honest, this Davos-like conference has only been around, this is the second year, and they, do not have people breathing down their neck and watching what's going on yet in the same way. And I think that's what led to the candor, because the Macron bit, President of France, right? And also probably now the grandparent, the grandfather of Europe. He's the most, we were talking about it at the conference, like if you're thinking about the 5 most powerful people in politics globally, probably, Biden, then Xi, then somewhere between Putin, Modi, and Macron as a sort of third or fourth most influential figure at the global level. So it was fascinating. And the things he said, which was like, if Europe does not react, we are in crisis moment. Centrally, by the way, like a central piece is the rise of AI. It's also security. Ukraine is a major shift. It's also IRA, Inflation Reduction Act, which is the US less committed to World Trade Organization rules than they have been for decades. But it's also AI. It was like one of the big 3 pillars of what is a threat to Europe and its maintenance of its equal footing on the global level with China and US. So I don't know if he'd have been as candid in his words if this conference were, or this meeting were as prominent as it probably will be pretty soon. But when I saw Daily Mail, the world's most spurious news outlet, when I saw Daily Mail's lead story, besides whatever their actual lead story was, which was some local news thing that they love to put up at the top, but right below that was Macron's words at Berlin Global Dialogue. So anyway, I did an AMA on Reddit about it, because I was kind of fascinated to see what goes on behind the scenes in these places. And I thought other people would be. And the mods of the AMA, or the mods of technology sub, were so lovely. And they were so lovely. I was so grateful to them. Let me just screen share. There we go. They were so lovely. So they pinned it. They said it was the most, successful AMA that they've seen in a long time, which I would accord to the quality of the discussion. Like, that's why I wanted to go through it together, because I wanted to honestly give people a different way of engaging with the answers that people gave, or not even the answers, not my answers, the questions people asked, and then the kind of challenges or insights people offered. So you can see, I hope it's a screen share. My stuff's in the pink. And so I responded to a bunch of stuff But I was just so taken by the quality of the discourse. There was one bit where I was like, I wonder if I can find them immediately. There was one bit where I linked to a few answers that I got, or not answers that I gave, but questions that I got that I thought were just outstanding. But they're probably, buried comments, so we'll need to go and find those. But they were just really insightful. It makes sense because these are the discussions behind the scenes when people aren't watching that highlight for you what actually the years to come in tech are going to look like. And at the core of it, they think AI is the central shift in our society. This ain't blockchain, Web3. We're all familiar with prior, this is the seismic shift. Look, I will say this, I never bought any of those prior seismic shifts. Besides, I guess mobile, that was a similarly seismic shift. And if you did, that was wonderful. I tried to sometimes. This is the one. This is the one. Don't get me wrong, it's going to have its rise and fall elements, but there are significant things that will come just from this version. And that's why, for me, I kind of went in as an advocate for, you want empowerment, real empowerment. And I'd actually just been hanging out the week before with a grad at Codesmith called Star, and I admire her a lot. She became a staff engineer at one of the big tech commerce platforms, multi $100 billion worth company. And she's now left there, and she's launched a AI powered, and she built every piece of it herself because she can. One of the things she was doing at this platform company was AI stuff. She's built a meditation app that is dynamic. You can put in your description of what you want to have a personalized meditation on, and it will generate it for you. Full audio, full post-production, full music, suited, customized to you. It's kind of incredible. And to me, and I was talking to my co-writer, my co-author on this book I'm working on, and I was like, what do you, she is the embodiment for me of what owning the change, the transformation AI brings looks like. The opposite of that was what the exec from OpenAI described as the way in which one can truly understand AI to be making policy decisions about, as she was describing the politicians that they talked to. The way to make the change, ensure policymakers understand AI, was use our tools. This is genius. Use the tools of OpenAI. They're so easy to use, they said. That's how you can truly understand the under the hood of AI and wield it and not have it wielded on you. I mean, obviously, it's very natural for an OpenAI exec to say that, and OpenAI has changed the world, incredibly so. And even they were clearly surprised. The exec was like, look, we did not understand why ChatGPT got the traction it did, to being slightly less accessible version already available. So I don't begrudge it, but I do think I don't judge it. I really don't judge a company aspiring to own a market. What I do think is we all have a duty, an opportunity to put as many people as possible into the ownership position. That is where they can get as much of the surplus as possible. Now, either that's by government or that's by individuals who understand it and remember, not being the ones on the inside, but not empowerment via use our tools. Empowerment by build your own tools. Anyway, so should we go into this AMA? So, yeah, I'm a tech CEO at the Berlin Global Dialogue. So with OpenAI's exec, Macron was there. One of the people I admired most there was the co-founder of ARM. His name's Hermann Hauser. This person, he was very cool. So he has been a physicist, venture capitalist, PhD at Cambridge. Really amazing in the panel on next generation computing. So he was also there, co-founder of which is, if you know, is the third largest European tech company, IPO'd at a valuation of $50 billion, builds out a lot of the designs for chips used in essentially everything that we day-to-day use. So phones, and they design the chips, and then they make them available, the designs, to all sorts of other suppliers, NVIDIA, Samsung, Intel. Okay, so yeah, then I did a little proof thing. There I was. Not the best lighting, but there I was with the beautiful, remarkable color tablet, newly released. And this was one of the little gatherings. That's the vice chancellor of Germany. That's the CEO of Mercedes. People, it was fascinating. The CEO of Mercedes, that person, that was a power broker. If I have one book that Obama's favorite book, and everyone has to spend a year reading, and it took me a long time, is The Power Broker, on Robert Moses, who built New York between the 20s and the 60s and built his power in the process. Watching people like this CEO of Mercedes just control the narrative with rhetoric was just fascinating. There's the OpenAI execs. Anyway, so let's go through what we got. Here's my background, right? I've always been doing software stuff for a while. I studied philosophy, politics, economics at undergrad. I didn't want to be another person who could talk about business and tech and not build it. And so I went to, quote, learn to code, not a phrase I love, went to try and build with code. Undoubtedly, the theme was AI/ML completely changed the game. What I just felt was it was nobody. So I used to work at the UN a long time ago, and not for long, but I did take a bottle of water to Ban Ki-moon, former UN Secretary General. That was my colleagues there described me forevermore as my job was water carrier. It was an honor. I still remember walking up to Ban Ki-moon before I had to go and get the water and introducing myself, which was completely ridiculous. You're seeing the very front of the entire, whatever it's called, council thing. And I introduced myself. Right before me, the person before was like, I'm the Turkish ambassador to the UN. And I was like, I said, I work for you, which he just looked rather confused about. Anyway, but he did then get me to get some water. So UN has done an amazing job, whatever you think of it, of absolutely building in from the bottom up, the public through civil society. That means anything from non-profits to advocacy groups, organizations that ensure that as part of any discussions, the voices of others than the political and business leaders are central to them. I'm sure Berlin Global Dialogue thought about that. Maybe, I don't know. But undoubtedly, this was business, political, tech leaders. The only people they let in other than that were some young voices, which were about 40 current MBAs at Berkeley, Stanford, Harvard, whatever the European ones are, and they were the only ones, by the way, also who really seemed interested in the societal impact of the stuff being done, as opposed to the commercial or commercial opportunity / political machinations. So yeah, that was kind of fascinating. The UN does get that right. I still remember when I was at the UN and I was in Geneva and I'd wandered around. There were whole parts of the UN buildings in Geneva that were turned over to full-time civil society organizations whose job it is to facilitate relationship between the UN and the people that their choices affect, whether countries or aspects of civil society, like protected groups, every possible protected angle, there is a voice and a path to it. And I guess, knowing that I'm sure someone who's an expert in the UN would say, but it's nonsense. It's a heck of a lot more covered than in these actually very, very significant political business discussion groups where it isn't even included. So anyway, all to say, and that matters to me. My parents are both teachers. My sister's a teacher, and I just love the idea of these things being owned by not just those figures. So let's go through some of these questions. I guess we can go like the most upvoted one. Let's upvote it. What is it? Still can says, let's see how credible they are. Okay, we'll take that right. 2013. My proudest thing is my Reddit account, 2006. Okay, what use cases are the leaders seeing that are not apparent to the public? From my technical old guy seat, it seems image creation, writing, maybe video games, animation loom great. Chatting about HR policies, okay. Creating crap content on websites. I have not seen the other transformational use cases. So I don't really think that my answer here is the best answer. If only partly because I think that's kind of a little bit the point, is that some of the conversation was imprecise. But yeah, let's creating crap content website, as this person says, is very real. The person I like, the founder of ARM, Herman Hauser, and now a big VC, now a big venture capitalist, who was very. I'm a big believer in going and doing the hard work of actually understanding the technology, and then being a leader around it, but not this BS. Like I'll come to that in a second. But anyway, what he said, and he put it in, was within their companies, within their portfolio of investments, they've seen a 90% increase in productivity in programmers, which, given the core bottleneck in companies, is product release cycle. Can we release more products? We feel at Codesmith, you feel in every company that has any sort of product, tech product, you're like, how do I get more out with the limited bottleneck of capacity of engineers? So again, great question from someone. Yeah, how they're measuring that productivity. It seems completely arbitrary, the description. But if you look at what, of course, everyone who's invested in selling this, GitHub, as in Microsoft, they all talk about the return on, Copilot type tools. This was a really interesting one. This wasn't in any sort of panel thing. This was like this is in one of those off the record type one-on-one chats. So I should probably not put the name of the firm. I do this like podcast thing called Hard Paths. It's like people's hard decisions, journeys, struggles they've gone through as they become people running stuff, and the mental models, the conceptions, the insights they've gained from that. It's a very clever play on hard parts, but it does not work in an American accent at all. This person, I've been talking about this idea of a fusion engineer, people who are hired to build out quite nuanced software on things like legal advice. So not if this, then that, not generic CRM or relationship management software, which a law firm could use and historically does, but instead the specific legal advice type software that is only possible because of AI. Only possible because of the nuance that comes from stochastic software, that is large language models. They are statistical. They are stochastic. They deal with uncertainty and probability. And that's what makes them brilliant for giving legal advice. You might be like, that makes them terrible. Yeah, but it also makes them kind of perfect. You definitely do not want you can never have a piece of software that gives legal advice. It's like, if this, then do that. Because that's not what law is. Law is, here's an accumulated set of ideas that may or may not, but likely do, play into making a good decision for you as a person. Here's how we've managed to extract from hundreds of pages, hundreds of lawsuits, hundreds of precedent cases, the key takeaways that might be useful for you as a lawyer who is trying to build a case or trying to make sure every edge case in a contract is covered and so forth. People building that software, it wasn't possible before. Now it is. This partner who is responsible for AI at this firm is describing to me, and I want them to be on this podcast thing I do, because I think it would be so fascinating. Now, I told him I was at a dinner at Oxford a few weeks ago where I was sitting opposite a chairperson of M&A at a law firm who said, we hire more software engineers this year than lawyers. I was like, okay, wow. The partner that I spoke to this week at this thing said, I don't think it's quite that, but it's not far off. And they have a whole, so law firms famously have like recruiting from colleges, from universities, like really established how they bring their talent in. They're not bringing people in at like 30, they're typically bringing them through from college or law school all the way through to partners, deeply invested in the culture. Maybe you move around, but that's their main thing. They now have as developed a hiring program from law school as they do from tech engineering. But what they're looking for is people at the intersection. So I've been talking about this fusion engineer idea because we've had a grad, and she was a law graduate of Columbia University, went and worked at a law firm, and then went to Codesmith, and now is a software engineer lawyer. So the job description required 2 years of Python, which Codesmith grad can handle, and being a lawyer. I'm talking to this partner here, and I've never talked to a partner on the other side of it, the person actually making the decision. He's like, oh yeah, we're competing the whole time with the very company that hired her, Thomson Reuters. They're hiring, mass hiring these type of engineers or lawyer engineers, but we're competing with them because we need people who can build this software, who understand the law. So I thought that was probably the most significant thing is law. And actually I saw on Hacker News thread today, when the release of the new, I don't know what it's called, the new ChatGPT, feature that rips off Anthropic's user experience, not rips off, is inspired by Anthropic's user experience. What's that Anthropic user experience? Anthropic, Claude, artifacts. There you go. So artifacts allow you, I guess it's a bit like, it's really great. It allows you to kind of work with a canvas. Oh, I think that's kind of what OpenAI is called. OpenAI Canvas, right? Yeah. So, you can chat in one bit and then you can kind of produce stuff in the other. You can, make edits, you can make changes, you can have like a document. So why was I saying this? I don't know. Anyway, the Hacker News thread on this release was like people saying, I still bet the first job to go is lawyers. And this partner here said, we're just not going to be hiring the same number of lawyers, junior lawyers. That's a big one. And then there was this CEO of the, he's like, we're one of the, I'm not going to like reveal, because there's this thing called Chatham House rules, which is everything in the room stays in the room as within the bounds of anonymity. So I'm not going to join the dots here. That's in the discussions, by the way. This thing was a separate conversation outside of the room where I was talking to the partner. In the room, there was a person who says, hey, we're $1 billion European company, and we've cut 300 jobs using, specifically, points at the OpenAI exec, your APIs. And he goes, it was hard conversations, he said. It's hard conversations. But, he goes, all I hear about is labor supply shortages. So I was really surprised. It was the very last question of the discussion. He's like, I was very surprised that it didn't come up that, this is an opportunity. So anyway, I don't know what, as in opportunity to solve those labor supply problems in healthcare or elsewhere. So I don't know what to make of that. Others in this chat have raised doubts on whether you can even imagine cutting 300 people. I'll be honest, even the OpenAI exec was like, we don't really hear many of those sorts of cases. Like, we typically don't. Oh, but you know what? I didn't mention this in the chat, actually. Now I remembered. You know what else he said? He said it's done absolutely extraordinary stuff for their OPEX and for their cash flow. Yeah, I forgot that. Also, he was really pro. He's probably a similar age to me. And his question was so good. He laid out who he was, his background. He asked really, structured. It wasn't really so much of a question, but it was well structured. Whereas mine, I went through the question halfway through. I was like, oh yeah, I run a tech school in the US called Codesmith. My name's Will. Anyway, he was much more pro at it. But yeah, he said it's been phenomenal investor return and OPEX, spend for operations improvement. Like game changing, like completely changed the business structure. I thought that was very, and then if you look in the chat here, you can see what people are talking about is Klarna, another European company that has fired thousands of people. They outsourced their entire customer support unit. The AI agents took their place. Power of AI is happening right now, says Klarna Boss, as AI power chatbot carries out work with 700 people. On the one hand, I don't know if I agree with what I've seen from... Okay, I have a few stories. One, when I gave a talk at a $500 million revenue company earlier this year, all about, actually, by the way, making the execs, it was for all their CEOs, all their regional CEOs, and we made them pair program because I want them to understand just what a drain it is for software engineers to build stuff, how difficult it is. But I wanted to also show them what you can do potentially with AI. So they were pair programming through building with the help of a chatbot. And of course, it doesn't make them much better because they're not good at problem solving of that type. They should be, or they should at least respect people who are. But as I talked to the CEO of the organization, he said to me, no, it was to me, but also to the whole, now I think he also said to the whole room of the CEOs, at their heart, they're like, how can we cost save? How can we cost save? So it's interesting. I saw that. And then on the other hand, I have a lot of thoughts about the extent to which, especially if you have the capacities to problem solve hard stuff in a versatile way and bring others along with it, with yourself on it, the need for that is only going up. And if you can do more with it, amazing. So it's kind of like there are tasks, and if there are roles that are quite task heavy that maybe are more vulnerable, and then there are sort of roles or thinking where you're being strategic, you're problem solving, these sorts of things where, but I don't know. Let's see what the chat says here. Okay, let me actually see what questions we have in the chat, because I realized I was screen sharing on oh no, I can't screen share. I'm on a different thing. Oh no, here you go. Here you go. All right, nice. Hey. All right, let's look at the questions or the chat. We've got Yash says, hi, Will. Was the stat of 85% of AI projects providing zero value from the summit you were at? Yes. Where did I get? Is that in there? Did I mention that bit then? Yeah. Yeah, that was so. They were so proud of themselves, Yash. These two. Oh, it's nice. I can see myself now. It was so proud of themselves. this also, should I turn the light on? But then it has this line of the light. Yeah. Which way should we? There you go. They were so proud of themselves, Yash. It was a McKinsey senior partner, and it was a senior partner at, I can't remember what it was. I think I want to say it was the head of the French boards of directors. So the chairperson of the French board of directors. And they were like, oh yes, our report found 88%. And they're like, oh, ours found 85%. I'm like, yes, good. Well done. But I'm just like, how are they measuring that? Come on. That's just nonsense. Anyway. Bradley, let me share the AMA. Yeah, let me just do that right now. Thank you for asking in the chat. There it is. What we got here? Also, people, feel free in the chat to go full Atriarch. I want to see. That's the only YouTube streamer that I watch. Okay, Rogelio says, out of the non-technical people there, politician CEO of non-tech companies, who did you feel had the best understanding of AI and ML, not just superficial understanding? So here's the thing. There was two big panels. One was on next generation computing, and one was on AI ambiguity, societal revolution, business reinvention, or something like that. And on the next generation computing one, there was a splinter, I think. There was a panelist, and he was a nice guy. I spoke to him afterwards, who is the executive vice president of policy at Salesforce. That's a huge role. Salesforce is the company that builds the big skyscrapers. That's how much money they make, right? Like one of the most successful tech megacorps that are not maybe consumer facing out there. Is it Mark Benioff, right? Benioff, the founder. So, look, he went to a great law school, Georgetown. He was really nice. But when the brilliant moderator, she was a phenomenal moderator. She got everyone to define their terms, and she called out any BS or whatever. When she asked him, define what we mean by AI, define what we mean by large language models, he had just about tidbits, but his lack of clear understanding of what he was talking about was just palpable. By the way, when he was talking about law and regulation, suddenly he was actually really good. I thought, okay, this is good. I liked it. But shit, he had no clue about, he could say it. And I went up afterwards and said, I was talking to him after, I ambushed him by the coffee. And he was really nice, lovely guy. But I was like, look, I said to him, I didn't want to be that person who went to, actually mentioned that Eric Kirsten, who is one of the advisors of Codesmith, also went to Georgetown Law School. I said, I don't want to be that person who is talking about these topics and hasn't gone and invested the time in understanding it truly. And he was, I don't know if he knew I was referring to him. So, but no, the best person was undoubted, because, okay, great. But then there was also someone who understood tech inside out. They run a quantum computing company, and they get it completely. They amazing. But their communication of the ideas, to be fair, was not actually bad either. But their interest in policy was lower. And then there was that Herman Hauser guy. He was right at that intersection. He was able to speak to how computer architectures are working and give you actual mental models. One of the answers I put in here, people, was framework. I wish it would have it automatically opened. Can I auto open everything? Yeah. Let me try and open everything, because I've got a bunch of comments on some of these that are kind of buried. But I was one which I really loved by Hauser, which was, there's a framework. Also, I should probably have chosen my top 3 questions on here rather than ramble. So if you've joined and are waiting for that, then Okay, I even saved 2 of the questions here. Those 2 are my favorites. Yeah, Herman Hauser talked about this framework that was thinking about power requirements for computation, for computers and for AI in terms of 2 clear separate questions. One, compute power, and the other, communication. Every time you make a change, and he explained it better than me, so forgive me, every time you want to do some processing on a computer, there is data and then there is the processing unit. If you want to do some changing to that data, actually you pull in that data. It is being communicated from one bit of the chip to another, where you then do the work on it and then you return it to the memory, to the place where it was initially stored, and you make the change to the store. That is the von Neumann architecture for computers, as opposed to, or in contrast to, doing the calculations, the work, in the same place as the data, in memory computation. That step of communication is a vast amount of the energy that it takes to run at scale AI model training. If there's ways of doing in-memory computation where the work being done on the data is happening in the same spot, then you may have breakthroughs in the amount of power need for these vast models and the training going into them. Because that was a major concern that did come up a lot, and I was pleased to see, is the energy consequences of. So one of the forecasts says by 2030, 20% of all energy will be going towards model training. It's quite a high expectation, but like, this is what we're talking about. So I really admired that sort of communication from, as I say, Herman Hauser, somebody who I would say was right at the intersection of understanding technology and understanding policy, right at that intersection. It's a great question, Rogelio. Okay, let's actually do the questions I thought were best, because I don't know what I was doing otherwise. All right. 1. Black Hornet 03 says, I see AI as technology that will be used to benefit the greedy few at the expense of the majority of people, which will be very destructive. I mean, yeah. Yes. Now, that can be the nature of human behavior. What I want to see is the people who can stand up to that doing so in a powerful way. I'm less interested in trying to change those people who are going to instinctively do that, and more about putting people who will not instinctively behave that way in positions of power and expertise. That's the whole premise of Codesmith. Put people who remember their journey, who were not always the wielders of tech, but had it wielded on them in positions of authority and leadership, where they are now the experts on that tech, and they can't help but want to pass it forward somewhat. And by the way, I was watching Christine Lagarde, who is the head of the European Central Bank. Let's check I got that right. Yeah, president of the European Central Bank, on Daily Show yesterday. And she said exactly the same thing. I was like, yeah, you want it for it not to take away power from people. They need to be able to wield it, not just use it. And she's absolutely right. So let's see what this is my favorite comment, or one of my top 2 or 3 comments. Okay, yeah, watching what the elites do rather than listening is always instructive. People love talking about hard work and risk, but rarely take actual risks and rarely put in hard work compared to what is socially available. I mean, honestly, I was talking today about what is noble leadership from elites. There's always going to be elites. There are always going to be decision makers. So what does noble leadership look like from them? What does real hard work look like from them? And because you could say, wait, they're working, a CEO of McDonald's is working 100 hours a week. Maybe. So what's not working? There's a certain type of work they're not doing. It's the work that they're telling everyone else to do. It's the grind work. It's the doing the same thing for the 100th time. And I think that's what I so there's a journalist at the FT, the Financial Times, called Lucy Kellaway, prominent writer, journalist on education, on financial management, self-financial management, like prominent journalist. She, in her 60s or late 50s, said, wait, I've been telling people how to manage their money, how to build a best professional path, what is the right... But I don't do the bit that they're all struggling to do, the daily grind of a teacher trying to manage one's investments, limited they might be. I've got all this power. I probably grind through my writing every week to get my piece out for the FT, but I'm not doing the very thing that I'm telling others to do, or I'm not making decisions within the context that others are making of a daily grind, a hard daily grind, where it's not I work hard now and it gets easier later, but I work hard now and it's the same next year. And so what does she do? And she still writes for the FT. That's amazing. Yeah, amplify it. What does she do? She went and retrained as a teacher. And every day now she is in a classroom grinding as a teacher and still writing for the FT, but now with the credibility that she is grinding, the empathy, she sees what it's like every day, and the insight. She actually knows on the ground what it's like to be a teacher, and therefore what one could do to improve one's lot in that situation. So to me, watch the elites do rather than say. And she does. And I had somebody who was in my class at grad school, and she, her dad was a English professor at Oxford, and she did English at Cambridge, and she's there at Harvard on a fellowship and And you know what she did afterwards? She retrained as an NHS doctor. And my respect for that. She does every day the hard work of NHS doctor. Now, does she write about it? Will she write some fancy book about it? You bet she will. But there's no arguing with the daily grind she's doing. So I think this is an amazing point here. Watch what people do. They love to talk about hard work, but only a few do. I think in this era, those ruling classes who do and don't talk about it, like me on this right now, but who do, that is why I try and do my workshops on the coding stuff and the hiring strategy on repeat, because it's the doing. So this shared prosperity term that Sam Altman used in their manifesto, intelligence age. You got industrial age, 19th, early 20th century. Information age, I guess that's like from the 50s with media, computers, internet, through to intelligence age. Look, it's clever and it's probably true. But the point is, we need to be the ones wielding it, not only Altman. This is such a great, I wonder who wrote this. It's so intelligent, it's so great. What did I say in response? Share prosperity. OpenAI's VP was asked about this yesterday in one of the closed door panels. She said, leaders should learn about AI by using our tools. That's got to be a recipe for the benefits to go to the few, them, not the many. The OpenAI VP, she's like, of all the politicians I've met, and I've met a lot, 25% of them, she said, have not used ChatGPT. And she's like shocked. I'm like, so they should use our tools to make their decisions, make their policy decisions. I'm like, no, I want people in those leadership positions to actually have lived either building with it or understand it deeply, and the nature of, you need more people who've actually, sorry, I've got a really bad splinter in my, So I had some ideas about how to deal with that. Couples of interesting things that I heard and sort of picked up from the conversations. I picked up from the conversations, these were not in the closed door sessions because people didn't really seem to be talking about some of these ideas there. These were in the kind of halls outside where they did have great coffee. I'll give them that. They got out. Universal right to adult education. So actually, someone did. In fact, I even might have mentioned this. Yeah, one of the guys on one of the people on the panels advocated you need people in their 40s to have the right to further education. The old degree is going to be obsolete. Why I think that's interesting, people, is it's not upskilling. Upskilling is still incredibly vulnerable. What you really want is like up capacitying. You want to give people freedom. Like, I don't know about, maybe I'm wrong, but like, I doubt many of the people who if you have the ability to learn any new thing and you've experienced, I would call it hard work paying off. And that hard work might be the grind of learning to bloody code or learning some other topic, but you felt it be hard, be unattainable, and eventually come out the other side of it paying off. That is an extraordinarily versatile feeling, belief. And my belief is that everyone should have the right to that feeling. But for that to emerge in somebody, they need to have experienced struggle in learning or communicating or whatever, and steady improvement in it. The improvement is so steady they don't even notice it. So why the hell do they keep going? Because somebody else has invested in them to say it will pay off. Keep going. Because every rational person would look at struggling to learn something and not getting it the 13th time as evidence that it's not possible for them. But it absolutely is. And actually, by the 13th time, they're already significantly better. For me, the whole premise of Codesmith has always been everyone has, or everybody who is Codesmith has a right to somebody saying it's worth the struggle you're going through right now. And so that to me is the difference between upskilling and up capacitying. Up capacitying is education that is other people's serious investment in your struggle and therefore growth. And that's what a great education setting will do. We probably all have those sort of teachers, but that's not an upskilling thing. Upskilling is your identity is already made. Here's some knowledge and skills. No, our identities are evolving as adults. What I want to see is adults equally have the right to somebody investing in their growth as a person, so yeah, I was pleased to see that that's why I say time tax on big AI companies was something that really clicked with me when somebody raised it, because that's somebody else, therefore, in power, investing in you, that makes you want to do the struggle that will be required for your growth and that makes you actually empowered. Anyway. So that was a great answer by some great question. Sorry, not answer. I mean, it sort of was an answer, right? A rhetorical question here. I thought this was just a stellar thing. Let's have a look. Yeah, I don't know who they are, but I thought it was stellar. They like XKCD. I do like XKCD. They have Peter Principle. Okay. Anyway, hopefully a nice person. We don't know. This one also. Oh, by the way, in the chat, feel free to ask me more questions if you have them. I'm happy to answer further questions. Okay, Yash says, if you're a working software engineer, what do you think you need to do now to stay relevant and employed? I know you answered it there, but could you add something to make me stand out from the crowd? Did I answer it here? I'll come back to if I did, but it depends. I did a Hard Paths podcast session with with Victor, who's a Codesmith grad, Victor Liu, and works as an ML, machine learning engineer at TikTok. And he, in the chat, you should go watch it. Like, he talks about applying the Codesmith method to machine learning. He went and built his own curriculum, built on struggling through blocks, actually building stuff, understanding how it's working under the hood so that you can apply it at scale without necessarily having done it at scale for ML as much as he did through Codesmith, at least at that point, through software engineering. We've always taught a bit of ML, but not enough to like really, certainly not enough to get an ML engineer job typically. So that makes me go, oh, you can apply the I've learned how to learn to anything, even becoming an ML engineer. And I've seen that for many Codesmith grads who've gone on to become ML engineers, machine learning engineers. But I would say if you haven't developed that ability to learn anything as a software engineer, Yash, do that. How do you do that? I would say it's escape tutorials. I would say it's finding a person to pair program through building stuff with for 10 hours a day and many months on end. And if you do that, and maybe you're doing that with what topic? Well, probably prediction or stochastic software, otherwise known as machine learning, or I guess neural deep learning, transformer focused deep learning. I hate to call it just AI because AI is a term that means whatever it means at that moment. AI is the set of stuff that at that moment we've decided is new enough that the computer's doing that we call it artificial intelligence. And so to call transformer-based neural networks AI, but other stuff that we do as a computer, not AI, is kind of arbitrary to now. But yeah, that particular area is the transformative bit. My little transformer joke there. That is the transformative bit at the moment, or has been for a while, for a few years now. So I would say build the ability to take on any new topic. And if you haven't done that, which is what the whole point of Codesmith is, but if you haven't done that, you can do it without going to Codesmith, or you can be like, I know someone's interviewing today for Codesmith right now, and she is a senior engineer from Meta. Why are they doing that? Well, because you may already have it, but it can still be incredibly valuable to hit blocks on repeat, and in doing so, grow as a collaborative, deeply able to communicate problem solver. But if you're already doing it with coding, why not apply that yourself with a friend or collaborator for hours a day on machine learning, and specifically on machine learning tailored to deep learning neural networks, because that is going to empower you for this next era. If you could also do that through the Codesmith, what is it? This become irreplaceable ML. I don't know the link. Hold on, my screen sharing. Let me just see and make sure you're sharing a window. So can I go to my Slack? We have a there's a poor team member who she's a brilliant and talented leader at Codesmith, and she's had her head hit, and so we got her these delicious looking donuts. I want some of those donuts. Holy shit. Hold on. I need to. Firstly, I want to check my facts on because it's kind of surprising, right, that you'd have somebody applying to the program who's a senior engineer. So I want to check my facts on that. Let's have a look. Oh no, they were not a senior engineer. They were associate software engineer. Fact checking myself. Associate software engineer at LinkedIn. So I completely misspoke. Delete that bit. Delete it. And then they were a software engineer at Spotify. Delete my comment about the senior engineer at Meta. They're a software engineer at Spotify. But that kind of applies, right? That's still like, why would they be doing the program, Yash? And you don't need to. But what you can do is apply that same drive to problem solve but do it on, if you're already a software engineer, which it sounds like you might be, Yash, do it on ML, AI topics. Now, as I say, there is a program, standalone ML AI program at Codesmith that you can apply to do that. But as always, I am the worst promoter. I'm the worst. I did not mention Codesmith on this AMA, and maybe they were very nice. The mod said to me afterwards, "Thank you so much for not self-promoting." I was like, I would try to. I just forgot to. Hold on. MLAI. Oh, shit. Where's the link? Oh, here we go. Website. It's live. Okay. It is at become-irreplaceable.dev /AI-ML program. Yeah, Yash, you could go to this. So this covers foundational under the hood mental models. Even to get into this program, you need to have, or even to be in the program, you have to have got a strong grasp of neural networks, large language models, embeddings. You'll do it again in the program, but that's part of the prep material. And then how to integrate it in your industry roles, and then an ongoing community of people doing reading groups, panels with leaders on the latest techniques. So yeah, it's kind of cool. Co-creators of the course, but I don't know why they're not on here. They should be. Is the director of research at Microsoft for about 20 years. And then obviously the original creator of a lot of our ML content is the author and co-founder of Codesmith, Alex I. So, but anyway, we don't need to talk about that because nobody wants a shill. But yeah, thanks. Okay. Oh, thanks for the website comment. All right, so let's just do one other question then, because I am getting tired. And I said I would go and talk to the accountant at 5 minutes ago. In fact, I do just need to message her and say that I am late. Some people are saying this is gold material. Some people are saying this is the best watching me on my phone. All right. Super X Wolf says, as companies are moving towards replacing more services with AI, I see a possible future path where normal people use AI. I loved this. I was so curious about this. I asked, okay, this is really fascinating. It's probably the best, like, it seems obvious once you say it, but I haven't heard about it anywhere else. So hopefully someone's going to start talking about this more broadly. I gave my little award on this one because it was such a cool comment. As companies, so let me just try and sum it up. They're like, if companies can use AI to navigate us, and there's, yes, they will face regulation in time, but they have a right to kind of apply AI to us. Yeah, use our call center, and it's an AI tool, so we have to speak to the AI. We should have the right. Yeah, for example, companies are allowed to replace their entire help centers with AI, but they make it as cumbersome as possible for us to use our own AI to contact the help center. Shouldn't we start thinking about making the potential for AI communication to be two-way? People should be allowed to use an intermediary to interact with those company services. I was like, it reminds me of once you realize that companies were using your data to maximize their return, we should have the right as users to at least maintain the data's integrity. We should at least have the right to appeal inaccuracies on a Google search. We should at least have the right to, which in Europe one does, we should at least have the right to be forgotten. We should at least have the right to download all of our data owned by companies Think Google Takeout, the service that lets you export all your data. And so I'm like, wait, this is a really powerful idea. If they're using AI on us, we should have the right to use tools on others. And what that could practically mean is, what can that practically mean? Certainly, they're not allowed to restrict it, which you can totally imagine will happen. Like you can totally imagine an AI call center, if it feels it's being spoken to by an AI tool, will say, excuse me, no, developing some sort of consumer protection rights to wielding one's own AI in interacting with a company's is a really interesting idea. So I haven't seen, no one's referred to yet. Let's see what it says. I haven't read this comment yet. I actually hope it was more recent. I actually hope with the newest advances in AI to soon be able to have the phone digital assistant wait out the call queue, even make reservations. I assume it will be two-way AI comm. I see benefits in it. Let the bots ping each other. If compatible, finish the talk. Yeah, totally. But there'll be, I bet you there'll be situations where companies will be like, whoa, no. You're not playing us. Right. Imagine if doing so could allow you to, find optimal times to purchase a ticket, right? Like purchase your flight and automatically do so. They're like, oh, no, because now you're taking margin from us. Well, you have the right to extract margin the other way around. So users need the right, or consumers need to be protected to have the right to extract margins, as in like make as much money off the company as possible, the other way around. You can imagine employee rights as well, right? If you're an employee and companies have the right to monitor your output with AI, then you maybe should have the right to produce your work with, or, summarize your work or whatever it might be. This is a really interesting, because it's such a powerful tool. One's right to it is important. One's right to apply it in response to a company's use is a really, so I thought it was an amazing point here. Better point than I heard in possibly the entire conference. I thought it was amazing. What else? What are some other good ones? It's quite good there about how it is amazing, the impact on education, but it's working out in what way is that going to empower all and give everybody the ability to wield this, and not empower the companies. Not in the end, universal child education benefits society primarily as a whole and individuals as well. Universal tertiary education, or at least substantial tertiary education, does the same. What about when it's actually rewarding, or a lot of the return of that is being extracted? That's a problem. Yeah, this is a big thing for me, is so many of the leaders do not understand the tech they're building with. We need more people in power who have lived this, built with it. And ideally, remember, be on the other side, not having been the wielders of tech. And this is a big takeaway for EU needs a single market for tech, including AI, which would practically look like you can right now sell, if you're in Europe, a car, or there might be limitations, but sell a car in Germany as easily to a German person in Germany as a German. If you're in Germany and you produce a car, you can sell it with the same ease in Germany, but also in 26 other states in Europe. The amount of regulatory alignment that's needed for that, the amount of agreement on all sorts of subtle rules. Like, what if Germany has higher car prices in general because there's particular labor protections for German unionized auto workers? What if Romania, also part of the EU, also part of the common market, right? Yeah. Suddenly says, hey, we don't have those protections. We're going to be able to therefore undercut dramatically, but still serve the same market. You can't have that in a fair, open. You can't. No one's going to approve it. No country's going to allow it to happen. So you have to align your rules across the entire. So that's for physical goods. They never got around to doing it for digital goods, or not at scale. The opportunity to do so is economically vast. And I think the EU thinks there's a chance to pull this off in a way that they did fail on, arguably, to compete. The top 5 biggest companies in the world are all tech companies. They're all in the US. So what's going on there? I mean, besides Saudi Aramco, the oil firm. But besides that, they're all US tech companies. So the EU wants its champions. Now, there's a great comment in here from someone saying, excuse me, the last time they did that was trying to build a competitor to Google. Jacques Chirac, another Macron-like president in France, we are big, we're going to take on the world as Europe, built a European competitor to Google, spent 400 million on it. Sorry, not 400 billion, 400 million on it, $500 million on it, and it crashed and burned. So why this time will be different? Well, I would argue that this one does lean on some pretty serious heavy tech where Europe is not bad. Europe has, and one of the people speaking was one of the executive team and board of that lithography firm that is worth what? It's called AMSC or something. AMSC. Is it called that? No, it's not that. What's it called? Dutch company chips. ASML. Okay, so they're worth how much? ASML market cap. $300 billion. So the largest European tech firm, and they make the tools that allow the tiny lines and connections to be drawn onto these tiny chips made by TSMC, the chip manufacturer. Yeah, there it is, Taiwan semiconductor manufacturing company, or by Intel or Nvidia. They make the machines, the only machines that can actually have the ability to make those tiny little marks, and they have these extraordinary machines that cost 100 million. I don't know, but that built the lithography that allow you to draw out these tiny lines into chips that allow you to cram transistors on that are 2 nanometers across. I thought it was incredible. What do they describe? They put it really well. They can draw at a level of precision the distance that your nail grows in 10 seconds. So in 10 seconds, your nail's growth, they're drawing on chips with their machine at that scale. So I thought it was amazing. So if you're building, a robust AI offering, or champions in Europe, maybe certainly not top down, but providing the space for that, Europe has some things to offer. They've got ARM, they've got ASML, they've got some things to offer, and maybe this is strategically, so important that they will do whatever it takes to make it happen. So I thought that was, very interesting to hear Macron. But I did also like the person who was pointing out that, come on, they talked about this before, Jacques Chirac, former French president, and yeah, look at where that went. Yeah, someone asked here, if you're a working software engineer, what do you need to know now to stay relevant? Understand neural networks, LLMs under the hood. I'm talking stats, probability, optimization. Doesn't make you an ML engineer, but gives you first principle understanding of what goes into ML prediction. The tools keep changing, but the algorithms are the core. Sam Altman even said the same thing. Yeah. If you're non-technical, work as a lawyer, accountant, project manager, what should you be doing now to stay relevant in the world? I shared the story of the AI. We're not. I would say honestly, learn to code or learn to build with code and ML stuff. So they said here, I don't understand the second point. Well, there you go. They're probably right. It probably wasn't very well explained. All right, that might be enough. Let's see if there's any other questions. Brandon. So is this Brandon Murphy? Brandon Mizuno? I don't know. You know, Brandon, I did a talk in New York last week, and it was so much fun. And or 2 weeks ago, it was so much fun and so amazing to have a bunch of people from those cohorts as well from around that time. Oh yeah, there was John Gonzalez. He was really, or Gonzalez. Yeah. Anyway, all right, people. So there we go. We've had a full walkthrough of the AMA to end all AMAs. It did get 250,000 views. Let's see if it's gone up. No, it's not a bad upvote rate for the conversation. I think that's for all the conversation, right? Not just like on the actual thing. I think it's for the all conversation. That means people were really finding the conversation, as in not me, my bit, the questions, really valuable. I did my best to answer as many as possible. Still left, honestly, a bunch unanswered, but yeah, did my best. And yeah, it was a fascinating experience as well to do an AMA on a channel with 17 million members. It's the largest tech channel on Reddit. And I guess if I were to give any tips if people are interested in doing kind of AMAs on Reddit, firstly, you know, boldly don't shill. Like boldly don't shill. I did give my name in this bit here. There it is. But I didn't mention Codesmith. I mentioned Front End Mars. I probably should have mentioned Codesmith, honestly. I would next time, because give more context. And people were saying to me, hey, don't go too long on your answers. I hear that. I really liked trying to give more context, keep it snappy, though, I guess, or like bullets. But I really liked giving more context. I shared it on my socials, so I hope there were some people from like my community or Codesmith team who asked questions, but I don't think, you know, it got much traction more broadly. But I would just recommend doing it. I would really recommend doing an AMA because just, as I said, I posted it on my Twitter and it got like a few likes. Whereas here, it got 250,000 views and an amazing conversation that opened my eyes up to, firstly, the quality of the discourse on Reddit. Like, use Reddit. It's be in the right channels because clearly there's lots of not constructive spaces on there, but just amazingly constructive conversation. I probably got a few insights here that were more insightful than even what I got on the inside of this Berlin Global Dialogue, although there were some really good insights there as well, if only what people were not talking about at times. And then, yeah, I guess for me, I've been on Reddit for 20 years almost, apparently, which is terrifying. And so hopefully that gives you some weight. But I would say reach out to mods and ask, can I do AMAs? Because they were super responsive and super kind and lovely about it. And I hope that it's set a good precedent for the kind of conversation you can have. And hey, am I scared that I'm not? Absolutely, because it is a closed door event, but I think I was careful to not reveal anything inappropriate. I hope I will be invited back, and I hope I'll get to do more of these. I want to do more because my learning goes up when I have people ask these probing questions, and I think it is an advocacy thing. I think it's important about the transformation that's happening in this space. People are talking about it behind closed doors. We need to be talking about it in public and advocating, not least as I know a lot of people in this conversation are, people who actually understand. Don't have enough people who understand this technology, maybe at some point didn't, and therefore remember not, who are then taking on leadership positions. Get it? And I remember not. Here's what people who currently don't understand it need to be thinking about. So we can have a constructive discourse in society as a whole with information. We don't want another financial crisis type situation where you have obfuscation, hiding by the experts of what's going on, and therefore a reliance on them by policymakers. We need a bunch of people out in the open doing the Big Short, that helped explain the financial crisis and opened our eyes, so many of our eyes. We need the same thing in this domain as well. It is defining to our era. The conversations are going on behind the scenes. The experts are there, and they've got a lot at stake in it. We need a lot of experts, some of whom aren't going to agree with my views, but that's great. We need a lot of people who've become experts or knowledgeable enough to be able to explain how this stuff is working to others so they can go out and advocate, engage, debate, found, launch, challenge, whatever it looks like around this transformative time in AI. Okay, there we go. Let's leave it at that, people. Thank you, everybody. Good night. Enjoy your Fridays, folk. Bye-bye.